Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 11 of a good football show, Fantasy Kickoff, served by Applebee's. I'm Patrick Daugherty, joined as always by John Daigle, Kyle Dvorchak, and Denny Carter, who we thought maybe had become a frozen man before the show, but he was just muted for a world record amount of time. It's hard to set new world records in that year and a half into the pandemic, Denny. But you managed to do it.
Yeah, you were staring at my face setting lineups for like what 3 minutes. You had to call me. You had to go. This is the ultimate boomer move, and I apologize.
He wasn't muted. It was he had us muted, so he just had this 1,000-yard stare. Apparently setting lineups though.
Yeah, it really rattles anyone to get a phone call these days. So I'm sorry, Denny, if you're off your game after your phone rang. We're gonna dig into all your lineup questions first, as usual, taking a spin through this week's news, which is unfortunately bigger than ever. Kyle, we start with Lamar Jackson, the non-COVID illness. I mean, players almost never miss games with non-COVID illnesses, but he must really be going through something. What are some potential Lamar Jackson pivots if you, like me, did not believe he could miss a game with a non-COVID illness?
Yeah, I think this is the fourth time this year he's been listed with an illness. I think it'll be the only first time he's actually missed because of the illness. I'm not sure if there's some consistent through line here, given that this one is actually different. He's missing. I think of all the streaming options, Tyler Huntley is probably kind of in that cheat code territory of having good. Dude, he has good rushing production. He was good in the preseason. I legitimately think you're probably not finding this late in the week if you play in an actually competitive league. Even a back-end QB1 on your way for it. I'm thinking people are starting to scoop those types of players up. The one candidate would maybe be Cam Newton, but the PJ Walker potentially getting some reps. It's hard to actually confirm him as a QB1 for sure. So I would say Tyler Huntley probably fills in just like any other QB2 in terms of his fantasy production because, I mean, we've seen this with the Ravens. They take backups that look like Lamar Jackson because it helps them in practice, but it also helps fantasy purposes because guys who play like Lamar Jackson, even if they're 10% of Lamar Jackson, are still Konami code quarterbacks. He was good in the preseason, completed 72% of his passes. Not a high yards per attempt, but I don't expect a ton from this guy. And he also averaged nearly 7 rush attempts per game for nearly 30 yards, scored twice on the ground in the preseason. He got a ton of reps in the preseason because they didn't play many of their players, so those numbers might be a little skewed, but it shows how he's used and the style of football he plays. And we're shooting for the style he plays, not for him to necessarily be good. So I think if you play in a sharp league where the good options have been taken, he's honestly probably the QB 15, 16, 17 type of quarterback that you're forced to pick up.
His numbers are bolstered since he was engineering a run-heavy offense with the Utah Utes. But if you look behind the scenes, his accuracy close to the line of scrimmage was on par with Tua's among Huntley's class. Also one of the best deep ball passers in his class as well. Make no mistake about it, Tyler Huntley is good. He is buried behind Lamar Jackson, but he is a good quarterback. Among the list of backups we're seeing today, I have no beef at all with Huntley being the best among them. So I actually don't think, minus some production that you lose from missing an MVP, I don't think the offensive scheme changes that much at all, honestly.
This took a turn I was not expecting, to be honest. But
I'm so happy.
You're 3 for 3?
I'm thrilled that I'm not alone. I thought that I was going to have to go to war to even mention Tyler Huntley's name, and I have 2 sharps telling me that Tyler Huntley is good to go. I love this. Yes, we cannot overemphasize the power of the Konami code. Okay, the rushing ability of and production of quarterbacks. That's what you're going to get with Huntley. They're putting him in so they don't have to change the offense dramatically. I like him a lot.
Well, hopefully he's inspired by his Utes demolishing Oregon last night. And Kyle, by the way, I like that you're showing solidarity with Tim Boyle.
I know. My apartment's getting cold and everyone's wearing their pullovers. Denny's wearing his suit. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm done looking good. I am. I literally thought about doing that joke. I'm showing solidarity with Tim Boyle was the exact wording I was going to use.
To be fair, I would have had my jacket, but I left it in Chicago, I noticed this morning. So that is why the sports coat's not on now.
And Tim, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with you against Myles Garrett today. Denny, the Chiefs backfield, we're getting back Clyde Edwards-Helaire today for the game of the week against the Cowboys. Darrell Williams had been somewhat fading a little bit before last week, where he caught 9 passes for 91 yards. Seemed to be fully reestablished as the back the Chiefs needed right now. But now CEH is back. Where in the world do we rank them? Can they both be trusted as flex? Can either of them be trusted as an RB2? So on and so forth.
I think it really depends on who gets the bulk of the pass catching work here in the Kansas City backfield. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better between the tackles runner, like more natural. That's the way they've used him in the past. So maybe he picks up that role, but that's not incredibly inspiring in an offense that is at the top of the league in expected pass rate or pass rate over expectation. And in the red zone, they're only second to the Bengals in pass rate over expectation. So we know the Chiefs will keep throwing it no matter what. It's like the Bucs in many ways. So I feel like CEH, I know CEH doesn't have much of a floor here, even in a high scoring game. I suppose he's a flex in 12-team leagues, but just barely.
It's just, I don't have anything to add to that because I just feel like I have no idea what to expect from either the Chiefs or the Eagles backfield. But Daigle, we got another backfield with the Giants where it's a little strange. I thought we would get like true confirmation. Saquon Barkley is coming back. He's not played since week 5, but we think Saquon Barkley is coming back. If you're setting your redraft lineups though this morning, lineups due in 50 minutes, can you really have faith in Saquon Barkley? And if Saquon doesn't go, is your only option like pairing him with Devontae Booker? What should we do with Saquon Barkley in redraft?
I'm not too worried about Saquon Barkley. I'm playing him as a low-end RB1, fringe RB1, wherever I have him. The Giants, did this garbage in the preseason and saying he would not be back when it was clear, although he may be limited to start the season, that he would be back when available. And that's what he was, brought along slowly for the first couple of games, but then at full speed. He also said something I thought was important earlier this week, that he was ready to go for the last game before the bye, but then the COVID list messed it all up. And remember, he was actually practicing. He got in a couple practices before then too. So I would imagine he's available and has close to a full workload, honestly. Maybe the production isn't there because it is the toughest matchup literally possible, but I think he's at least going to be available for you.
I'm glad that you think it's garbage because truly, what are they even trying to do? It seemed to me just completely apparent he was going to play, and it just seems very amateur that they're trying to pretend that he's not. But I guess the joke will be on us if he doesn't play.
This is Bush League stuff, Giants.
Yeah, this is just Bush, Joe Judge. This is just Bush, man. This is messed up. All right, what is messed up that we haven't gotten to your questions yet? And now we are getting to your questions. And let's see, right off the top here, this is I don't know. This is pretty clear cut, Denny. Right, we're gonna go with the running back Mark Ingram, even against the Eagles, over T. Higgins and his 7 to 8 target floor.
No.
What?
I'm going. I like T. Higgins. I think that there's a good chance the Eagles are going to completely overwhelm the Saints today. The Saints banged up offensive line. The Eagles defense has been hot, maybe the hottest in the league. That pass rush is going to get to Trevor Siemian again and again. I don't think Ingram is going to be set up for a good day. Also, last week, Ingram was a bust until the fourth quarter. He caught that long wheel route, 30, 40 yards, whatever, scored a touchdown late, ended up scoring 20 PPR points and looked good. Okay, that's why you played him. But he, that was a backdoor sneak situation. I'm not confident on Ingram at all. And the Bengals and Raiders obviously has a chance to shoot out. Both teams are among the teams allowing the most offensive plays per game. So lots of potential for a back and forth here. I like Higgins a lot.
Well, you like Higgins a lot, Daigle. Then do we like Joe Burrow a lot with Kyler Murray out for Jerry Medina? Or do we go to Russell Wilson after whatever that was last week, finally getting a home game against the depressed Cardinals team today without Kyler Murray? Are we Are we starting Russell Wilson or Joe Burrow?
Maybe Russell Wilson is in a better spot with a higher ceiling. Not even better spot. Maybe he has a higher ceiling, but why even risk it? Whenever you're nitpicking, I think always the easiest decision is to take the safest play. Again, whenever you're talking about players that are 2 or 3 spots apart, and the safest play is very clearly Joe Burrow, even healthier, you would assume, off of a bye, and just a great matchup against the Raiders in a total we expect to go over. Joe Burrow against cover 3 this year, which, as we know, the Raiders play a majority of, did not even stop them from playing that against the Chiefs, even though teams showed them, well, this is how you should at least attempt to slow down Patrick Mahomes. Gus Bradley said, no, we don't care. Hold my beer. I'm going to play cover 3 anyways. And Joe Burrow has averaged over 9 yards per attempt with a 77% completion rate against cover 3. So we like that game on both sides of the ball, including Burrow.
So many people have held Gus Bradley's beers during his life. At a certain point, Gus, you need to drink the beer. All right, just drink the beer. Kyle, let's get to the good stuff here with the streamers now. You guys are all claiming Tyler Huntley as a potential streamer, as kind of maybe assuming that Tua and Cam were not available. So would you stream both of these, Kyle, over Tyler Huntley, the one true God? And if the answer, who do you prefer, Tua or Cam?
I will still take Cam. I think we're not going to see that much of PJ Walker. And when we do, it's not like he's taking goal line carries away from Cam. The things we want about Cam are not his passing. And that's the time, like if it's a 3rd and 15 and they pull him off the field, you probably weren't getting many points in that play anyways. So I'm just going to take Cam, assuming he at least plays his normal, what we saw in New England, what we've seen throughout his career, rushing role. Even if his passing roles declined a bit, it wasn't that valuable a role anyways. You're playing him because you thought you'd get 45 and a touchdown on the ground. The passing was just icing on the cake. So I'll take Cam here. I know it's like an easy matchup versus the Jets because they're just bad at every different level, but it's a low total. The Dolphins don't have a particularly high implied team total as well. I think at that point, like if you're not gaining a ton of ceiling by going to the opposing streaming quarterback, just take the rushing floor with Cam.
I'm going to throw this next fantasy question to you, but real quick on a betting question. Are we confident the Dolphins cover and beat the Jets today? We are, right?
Fairly confident.
Okay. I'm kind of worried about one of my confidence.
I'm not confident in the 49ers. I am not confident in the Bills. I am confident in the Dolphins.
I've got way too many confidence points on the Bills. But Daigle, so last week there was a narrative that I was giving you all the hard questions. I think I'm kind of doing that again here with this one. Pick one for flex. Rashad Bateman with Tyler Huntley. Who is the QB1 overall for the week? Miles Sanders or J.D. McKissick? Who do we feel for Dylan's flex and what I hope is a PPR league?
We're just taking the increased target share. Bateman was already a possession receiver, so maybe we see some different routes from him. Although honestly, like if you're playing DFS, I think Sammy Watkins is a fine pivot. We expect Sammy Watkins route participation and targets to increase as well. And like Sammy Watkins doesn't lose his role, maybe he gains more. And his role is the primary deep threat. So like the Marquise Brown role essentially just goes straight to Watkins and everyone else is just going to play Bateman and think he has that ceiling. Maybe he does that ceiling, but he's a possession receiver. So at least we know for redraft, his floor is higher than Watkins, significantly higher. And so we're just going to take that instead of the questionable running backs.
I like to hear that. That's what I'm honestly wondering about this one of my home leagues. And Denny, I feel like I'm not even kidding. I've been asked this exact question by like 3 or 4 people this week. If we can start Dan Arnold over TJ Hockenson. I did install Dan Arnold 1 spot ahead of TJ Hockenson in my rankings. Do you agree?
I'm starting John Bates over TJ Hockenson.
Oh, no.
I mean, come on. No, this isn't close. This is like asking a Kelsey over Hockenson.
I mean,
Go with Arnold.
You sure it's not close?
It's not close.
All right.
It's not close. Who in this Lions offense? I'm scared of Swift today. I'm scared of with Jamal Williams back. I'm scared of everybody in this offense. This is a nuclear meltdown situation. And I don't think Hockenson escapes Chernobyl. I'm just sorry.
Well,
it's too soon. It's too soon for that.
It's too soon. While one of you were talking to, I may have put DeAndre Swift in the flex in the staff contest. Kyle, Latavius Murray's coming back, throwing a wrench in this Ravens offense that is like nothing but wrenches today. So no quarterback, a returning running back. Can you trust Latavius Murray, or do you just try to bank safe PPR points at Tyler Boyd, even though the safe PPR points haven't really been there with Tyler Boyd this season?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure Latavius Murray comes back to that lead back role he saw early in the season. Devonta Freeman is just like straight up looked good. Like he's running, I know it's yards per carry. It's not the most, illustrious stat, but he's running at like 5.4 yards per carry. He scored in 3 of his past 4 games. He's done well as a pass catcher, which is something Ravens running backs have consistently failed to do in the Lamar Jackson era. I'm not really sure you're picking up more than maybe like 40% of the carries, 50%, and none of the targets, I would assume. So if we knew he was in that 15 carry a game range, sure, you could argue him in half PPR over Tyler Boyd, but I have not a ton of confidence that we actually see him go back to his full role that he was playing earlier because of that Tyler Boyd in a game that looks like it should be a pretty fun scoring environment. I'll take Boyd with the safe half PPR points, not quite full PPR points.
Yeah, I agree with Boyd, and I kept Devonta Freeman ranked ahead of Latavius Murray. Kind of guessing
sure what to do with that.
Kind of guessing, but I feel like it probably will be Devontae. Daigle,
is
Oh,
not
you
the
go,
word.
Daigle. You go, Daigle.
No, I was going to say safe is not the word I'd use for Boyd, who has one top 43 finish in his last 5 games since T. Higgins returned from injury, but safer than Murray. Yes, let's phrase it like that.
Yeah, that's probably correct.
That's a good point. See, Daigle, hey, parsing the language. That's what we do. We got to parse language in this field because we're splitting hairs a lot of times here. Daigle, I'm designating you. Savulu, I don't know how to pronounce it. He joins us every week, almost every show. I'm designating you the Saquon Barkley expert for today's show. Saquon Barkley or David Montgomery, who I don't know if it's surprising or not, but before the Bears bye, essentially checked right back in to his every down role.
He taught me how to pronounce it on the Tuesday waivers Q&A, and I think it was Sivulu, but I also reminded him I'm going to forget it by Sunday, which I did. So sorry.
Good call by you.
Sivulu,
That's a
I
really
believe.
intelligent call. It's a good self-read.
We yeah, I know myself too well. So we tried, and we appreciate you showing up every week. And with that, it is close. Since it is close, I guess I just said my own mantra, and that when it is close, you just take the safer play. So don't you just play Montgomery?
I'm going. I think the Barkley floor is really high. I think the ceiling, even against the Bucks, I think he's probably got David Montgomery on both floor and ceiling like ever so slightly. But they are so close in the rankings.
If I were 100% certain, because there's a difference between Barkley and the other question we asked, or like if we're concerned about Barkley. But like with this one, when it's the RB 12 or RB 13, I guess I just take the RB 13. That's my thought. But I also like don't mind it all if someone takes Barkley.
Yeah, that is actually a good way to break it down. Denny, I feel like we're going to get a lot of Jeff Wilson questions today. You already have gone and betrayed Mark Ingram once. Dare you betray him twice with Jeff
You're acting
Wilson?
like I have some fealty to Mark Ingram.
Big Mark Ingram. They're out here watching.
He's a running back.
People like Mark Ingram, Denny. That's all I'll say.
He's a running back. I never even heard of him. Jeff Wilson. It's a decent matchup, but usage is what we're going for here. And with everybody out, except for Hasty being out is big. For Wilson, because Hasty would have been the clear-cut pass-catching back in that San Francisco backfield if he were healthy and playing today. He's not. I'm not saying Wilson's going to see 10 targets or anything, but he could easily see 3 to 5 targets in this game. I think that he's somewhat game script proof, as much as a waiver wire ad can be. But yeah, I feel confident in him over Ingram today.
Yeah, is Jeff Wilson an RB1 today? Or is that too aggressive?
If he's not, he's like 2 spots behind. I think I had him I had to move some stuff around this morning, but I had him somewhere between 10 and 14. So if not, you are basically an RB1.
Yeah, he's right in that range. And Kyle, stay with you here. Devontae Smith or Michael Gallup? And then I'm going to throw in one of my own questions. I am really torn on Devontae Smith or Kadarius Toney today. So do Devontae Smith or Michael Gallup, and then do Devontae Smith or Kadarius Toney.
Devontae Smith, Michael Gallup. I'll take Smith in both. Gallup, that one is actually close. I do think Gallup, given that we don't have Amari Cooper for this game, and it is not just a high total, but an insanely high total, easily the most exciting game of the week with the 55.5 point total. That should be an awesome scoring environment. However, being the focal point of a passing attack is also a great way to score fantasy points. Devonta Smith with 40% of his team's air yards, 24% of his targets, playing efficiently. Like, there is just really no way to knock him other than the fact that his team runs the football a lot, but he's mitigated that by being the focal point of his team's passing attack. And his profile coming out of college was exactly that he could be, outside of his svelte size, he could be the focal point of any team's passing attack. And the Eagles this year have looked better passing the football, more efficient than they did last year, unsurprisingly. So, and I think the Saints also get this rep as a really good defense because of how they were a few years ago, but they're actually top 10 in wide receiver fantasy points allowed. Marshawn Lattimore, 4 100-yard games allowed this year. He's also had good games too. He's just been more volatile this year, as cornerback play typically is year to year. So I would take them both. Gallup was close. I definitely get, if you want to try and tap into that scoring environment, it should be a much more exciting game than any other game of the week. However, I'll take the volume with Devonta Smith and Kadarius Toney. As much as I love Kadarius Toney, this wasn't really close for me.
I was going to ask you, was it at least close? Then you literally said it was not close. Great. Got a lot to think about. Going to think about it during this Lawrence Jackson video where he's talking about league dues. Daigle, I did text you and Evan Silva yesterday. I need some money for fantasy. And, I'm just being a great commissioner. It's November 21st, and I'm getting around to collecting the money. So
I don't think either of us responded either. But to be fair, I was on the road for 14 hours.
So just great work all around. But, November 21st, that's usually I tell people, start trying to collect the money November 21st. That's usually a good way to run a league. So here is Lawrence Jackson on League Dues.
Yeah, I done switched it up on y'all today. You probably like, well, Lawrence, why you got this here suit on? I be seeing them boys on a good football show on them Sundays. They be having their suits on or whatever, looking clean, so I'm just showing I could do the same thing. What's happening? That's not really why I'm here with this suit on. I'm here with this suit on because I mean business. Like, well, you don't got a business tie on. What you mean? I like bow tie. Anywho, we are now in week 11 of the NFL. You have not done so yet. Pay your damn fantasy league dues. What you waiting on? Ain't just gonna go away. Nah, see, it don't quite work like that, partner. You knew what you signed up for. It's time to pay up. It been time to pay up. That's why you pay early. 2-8, 3-7. Then it's harder to pay. Like, damn, man, my team suck. And I gotta pay their money. We don't pity you. If you seen this here video right now and there's somebody in your league who ain't paid their league dues, tag them right now. Call them out. Bet you pay if it showed up on your credit. Maybe some of you wouldn't. This right here, fantasy credit, so pay up.
All hail the king of engagement, Lawrence. I mean, that's gold. That's engagement gold. Good stuff.
We've been dressing reasonably well, I would say, as a cast, but that was definitely the best dressed anyone who appears on the show.
It was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah, Lawrence should make a video about how maybe I just paid out a fantasy baseball league yesterday. I was in a commissioner mode yesterday, and again, that's what they say. When a fantasy season ends in late September, just pay out the winnings in late November. People are fine with that.
You can't yell at me when you're just paying out.
Yeah, people are fine.
Even MVP and Cy Young were named 3 weeks ago or something.
Thankfully, it was one of my best friends who was waiting on the money, but I was getting a bit impatient. That's another question I've gotten a few times here, and I've been wondering about Mark Andrews or Mike Gesicki. I kept Mark Andrews, Denny, in front of Mike Gesicki in the rankings. Did I make the right call?
Yeah. Yes, I think.
Anytime someone posts a donut, you're actually not supposed to even rank them the following week. Mike Gesicki, you're supposed to leave them out of the rankings.
But Gesicki saw 7 or 8 targets. He saw a huge target share. And the Jets could be had any which way. This is hard. I'm going Gesicki. I'm going Gesicki, and it's very close. It's very close. But Gesicki basically operates like a wide receiver. I know people are stung over that donut from last week, which was just inexplicable against a Ravens team that's been giving up production to tight ends all season. But yeah, stay with Gesicki today.
Lindorphins is a very frequent viewer too. Hello, Kyle. The Browns DST or the Bears DST. I did get the Bears DST way up in the rankings. Even though now you have me doubting a little bit with all the Tyler Huntley can slide in fairly easily for Lamar Jackson. But are we teeing off on Tyler Huntley or are we teeing off on Tim Boyle?
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like Tyler Huntley is Lamar Jackson. Things are going to operate as normal. He's a downgrade. He's a big downgrade. Obviously, it's Lamar Jackson. However, I mean, you want to play the Cleveland defense. Tim Boyle it was so mind-bogglingly bad in college. He threw one touchdown to 13 interceptions in 3 years at UConn. Then he transferred out of the top end of Division I to play it. I believe it was Eastern Kentucky or something, and threw 12 touchdowns to 13 interceptions or something like that. He cannot avoid mistakes at the lowest levels of college football. Imagine him against NFL defenders. Imagine him against Myles Garrett. This is going to be This has one of the worst football games of all time written all over it. Whereas Tyler Huntley, a backup, no doubt. I'm not saying he should be a starter for some other team. Maybe he should. We'll find out today. But I feel like we already know what Tim Boyle is based on his resume.
Yeah, if Cleveland doesn't win by 47 points today, they legally have to disband the team. I'm just putting it out.
Tim Boyle, we're all thinking about you today.
Let's go, Tim.
Good luck, Tim. Daigle, I'm giving you. I feel like it's another really hard one. Littles Gyms on YouTube. Corey Davis or Hunter Renfrow. Corey Davis rather disappointingly slid right back in as the Jets' number 1 wide receiver last week. He's going to get some sticky coverage from the Miami Dolphins today. Are we going with Corey Davis or are we going with Mr. PPR Hunter Renfrow?
Not complicated. We'll go with Hunter Renfrow. We'll take his 5 catches he's had in every game so far this year. Also, the team's leading wide receiver in target share the past 2 games without Henry Ruggs. And we'll take that confidence, the higher floor in a very good matchup.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, man. Corey Davis really bummed me out last week. That's all I can say. Denny Chuck is another frequent listener. or viewer, listener. I don't know. What do we call people who consume the show?
They're both.
He needs to sit two in PPR. This is a tough group. I don't know who to sit here.
I mean, I'm sitting Williams. Man, I mean, Mooney gets a bump because Robinson is out. Like, it's a good matchup. I guess you're, you know what? We're correlating here. We're going Bateman and Mooney.
I like it. But man, Tony, Denny, are we wavering on Kadarius Toney today? It seems
it's not about Tony. It's about the guy calling plays for Tony. That has me worried.
I didn't need to think about that. Kyle, Ryan G on YouTube, is it reasonable to flex Deontay Foreman over Adam Thielen, who people are getting fed up with Adam Thielen again? I've been noticing that as a trend in questions all week. Are we flexing Deontay Foreman over him?
Adam Thielen feels like you could put a clock to it. Like, doesn't score touchdowns for 2 weeks. People get fed up with him, finds the end zone twice, like makes the Justin Jefferson owners mad. And then the cycle starts again after he scores 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. I think I would take Deontay Foreman here. Without Jeremy McNichols, I don't know if they throw to the running backs as much, just because neither Deontay Foreman nor Adrian Peterson are quite known for their pass catching chops. In fact, neither of them ever really get used in that way. But I do think the targets have to go to someone, even if there are fewer of them to go around. I would assume that goes to the presumed starter, Deontay Foreman, and his team traditionally has played extremely run-focused, and they don't seem to be quite as willing to give up on that as maybe we would hope, given that their best talent is clearly A.J. Brown. I expect him to be a 15-plus carry and maybe 2-target player. I think that's worth it. I think you take that over Adam Thielen.
Daigle, let's establish the Deontay Foreman line. Are we starting CEH over Deontay Foreman?
Nope. I also think in deeper leagues, Nyheim Hines has a case to make. We saw Jonathan Taylor have a career high in snap rate, 84% last week, and his season high in backfield touch share, 87%. But even so, like, that was in such a favorable game script as they took 2 scores early on the Jaguars. The Jaguars, who hung around and have played good defense in consecutive weeks now for whatever reason. But nonetheless, Deontay Foreman, it's still for me. CEH, we genuinely just don't know. Like, even James Palmer's most recent report is that they don't know. Like, if he's active, they genuinely just don't know if and how much he's going to play. It's going to come down to pregame warmup. So you just can't trust it this week.
The Jags are going to just expose the 49ers today, by the way. And I was just informed by Nick Minzio, we need one more person in the stat contest. So if you are participating in this show.
I'm actually getting in right now.
All right.
If you're participating in the show and your name rhymes with Bon Bagel, maybe you could.
No, I mean, Denny Carter is rather inexplicably not in. He had the first shot. He said he can't do it on his phone or something. So yeah, Daigle.
I'm in.
All right, Daigle. All right, Daigle.
It's a Bon Bagel problem.
Daigle, get in the stat contest.
We're good.
Let's sorry. Denny, we haven't talked much about the Eagles' backfield yet. Do we trust Miles Sanders to actually lead this backfield, and do we trust him enough to play over Devin Singletary?
The Eagles have been wildly run heavy, especially while leading over the past 3 or 4 weeks. I think Nick Sirianni said this week that Miles Sanders would step in as the starter. Will Jordan Howard vulture a touchdown? Almost, yes, guaranteed. I mean, you can almost just put Jordan Howard down for 2 carries and 2 touchdowns, one yard touchdowns. But yeah, I think Miles Sanders is the play over Devin Singletary today. Yeah.
We'll get one more question, then we're going to get the Daigle's DFS manifesto for the day and Kyle's props manifesto for the day. With that being the case, Denny, I'll throw one more to you. We know you're a tight end thought leader now.
Yeah.
Dan Arnold, our boy Dan Arnold, pretty easily over Pat Frymuth, correctly? Correct.
That's a little harder than the first one, which was Arnold versus who? Hockenson.
TJ Hockenson.
I don't even never heard of you.
Guy's been a top 5 tight end all year.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers are allowing one of the league's highest target shares to tight ends. Ben Roethlisberger's back. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he's back. And so
Chase Claypool's back, by the way, too.
Frymuth.
And it's Dan Arnold, actually, is the answer. But okay. What is the answer in DFS, John Daigle? What do we need to know for week 11? It's another absolutely crazy week. Just lay it. You can do manifestos on command. Do your DFS manifesto on command.
It's just a really tough week. But remember, with late scratches like we had this morning with Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson, don't just react. Step back and ask, how is the field reacting? And then make your decisions after. So we know everyone then not only went to Tyler Huntley at 4,100, very cheap price. And I'm not even saying don't play him. He is a good play. I would just say ask what everyone else is then doing, because then everyone likely will spend up to the Chiefs-Cowboys game and stack Huntley with Bateman. And so I think stacking Huntley with Sammy Watkins is fine, even like smaller field 750 player tournaments. But particularly in larger ones, Huntley with Sammy Watkins, I don't even know if you need a run back, but David Montgomery is going to get lost in the mix with so much chalk between Jeff Wilson and A.J. Dillon and those other guys. I don't think people are seeing David Montgomery either. So even a simple game stack that no one's going to be on is really interesting. Also, what happened with Huntley, though, is that I did not want to play Cam Newton at 10 or 12%. But since everyone now is probably looking past Cam Newton, I think I'm interested. I think I'm interested in fading the narrative that he won't, or he'll split snaps with PJ Walker and just trying to take on those rushing touchdowns. Because if you get 2 or 3 at 5,100, that was the thesis to play the entire time. But now you're losing 6 to 8%, not even by something he's done to his own detriment. It's just what happened with the rest of the field. And so Cam Newton, and that's also a way to get off Christian McCaffrey. And then if you want to spend up for a player like Dalvin Cook, who's in a great spot, like Cook and the Vikings defense could dominate this game, honestly. Aaron Rodgers battling a toe injury. Also, no one's spending up at running back unless they go up to McCaffrey. So you're not only fading McCaffrey with Cam Newton, you're also fading Huntley, and you're getting Dalvin Cook, the next highest priced running back, who could easily have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. And then in between that, just remember, everyone's going to go to John Bates. So I don't mind Ryan Griffin if you're stacking the Dolphins, or even playing Jalen Waddle with Ryan Griffin, who's the same price and going to run arguably as many routes, if not more, than John Bates, since they're just not going to put anyone else at tight end. I also think Gerald Everett, fresh off a season-high target share from Russell Wilson, not to mention in both games around their bye, has run a route on 78% of the team's dropbacks. I think Gerald Everett's a pretty awesome skinny stack option with James Conner too, especially because those players and those options are on the afternoon slate, the 3:30, 4:30 games that you can late swap to or from as well. And you know, after your players go off at 1 p.m., or if they don't, you know what to do, since everyone's just playing the Chiefs-Cowboys game anyway. So just keep all that in mind when you're building lineups this morning.
It's absolutely elite to get the thesis of the play in there.
Also, really, one more quick one. I'm not saying fade Chiefs-Cowboys altogether. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. It's a good game. But you can play Ezekiel Elliott and no one else, thinking he's the way they slow the game down. If everyone else fails, Zeke can still get there with time of possession, and no one's playing Zeke in this game. So I think even Zeke and Cowboys defense, knowing that they can both easily get there, is a good, like, contrarian way to still get exposure to that game because of Denny's face.
I almost just teared up at you trying to. Yeah, I almost just teared up at you trying to ruin Chiefs Cowboys.
I hate that you're right. You're right. Yeah. Oh man, it's going to be 30 carries for Zeke, and nobody's going to do anything else. All right.
I just tried to make myself cry in command. I couldn't do it. Kyle, I don't want to be in tears after hearing about the props of the week. What are some really interesting props for week 11?
Yeah, I don't like that both of these are called manifestos, because Daigle comes in and really just rip roaring, like gives you, it's not about what your DFS lineups can do for you. Ask what you can do for your DFS lineups. And I'm just like, here are what a few different numbers are showing me.
Yeah, throw them out there. We want to hear the numbers.
Kirk Cousins under 268.5 passing yards. These were the lines on PointsBet as of yesterday. So there's not really a reason for these to have moved, but maybe a yard or two or something like that. Green Bay games are just awful. I can't imagine watching a Green Bay game. Green Bay games are 2-8 against the under or for the under this year. 8-2 for the under, 2-8 on the over this year. Packers secondary allowing the third fewest yards per attempt and passing yards per game. at 203 passing yards per game. And as Daigle said, like this could very well be one of the many games where Dalvin Cook gets established versus a weakened Packers offense. Like they're just not going to be able to establish it. And to me, this game screams both under from the total, but more importantly, it's even easier to get under on Kirk Cousins at 268. And then if you want a more of a long shot, Christian McCaffrey plus 270 was yesterday to get 100 plus rushing yards. Like obviously he's not going to get there all the time, but he got there in 10 of 32 games from 2018 to 2019. 6 of 16 in 2019 alone. At the peak of his powers, which he saw 23 touches in a little less than 3 quarters because they got to bench all their starters by the end of the game. He looks like he's at the peak of his powers. And at that rate, he was hitting about a third of his games, getting to 100 yards. Plus 270, I think, is worth a small amount of your roll on that. So those would be the two I think stick out to me most from the 5 props I wrote up yesterday.
Really, really, really good stuff. And yeah, check out that article. The really great props content over at NBC Sports Edge. Denny, we're going to hit on one of the themes of the week now, which is Devontae Smith and DJ Moore, who the bottom fell out basically for DJ Moore over the past month. Can he begin to rebuild with Cam Newton here? And are we doing DJ Moore or Devontae Smith?
Yeah, I think Cam is good news for DJ Moore. It can't get worse. I don't think
really it is like the definition of a can't get worse, we think.
Right. And so yeah, I mean, it's close, but the way that I think that the Saints-Eagles game is going to unfold, I think it'll kind of be an ugly game. I mean, the Washington-Carolina game will be ugly as well, probably, but I do like more a little bit based on a little more volume probably than Smith will see today.
I think that's one I'm really keenly watching because I have a league where I will be starting both of them and really, really wondering how that's going to play out going forward. RcColaa, I almost said it. Like the commercial. RcColaa.
The Zoomers love it.
Yeah, Daigle. Yeah, Daigle. I want you to have a hard question. 14-team PPR flex: Marcus Johnson, Tyler Boyd, or Adrian Peterson.
You're right. That is tough. Would I play Marcus Johnson over Tyler Boyd? That's what I'm asking.
Oh man, it's week 11, isn't it?
I guess I get Tyler Boyd is the higher floor. Marcus Johnson is the higher ceiling than Tyler Boyd. Make your decision from there.
With Marcus Johnson, he's one of those guys. When I Googled him, I hadn't looked up Marcus Johnson for a while until last week. You know, obviously I knew who Marcus Johnson was. Like, this guy's like 24, right? Now he's 27. And
he's been around a while. He's still a good player, and he has a higher ceiling than like Zack Pascal, Tim Patrick, those guys who kind of hover around. But nonetheless, I think Marcus Johnson, we just saw it last week, got 100 yards. Like, he has a higher ceiling than Tyler Boyd. But Boyd will still get like 4 or 5 targets, so it's whatever you want.
Marcus Johnson really strikes me as the player that's hard to research because when you first look him up, you're like, no, not the poet Marcus Johnson. No, not the former U.S. Senator Marcus Johnson. You have to go to the Wikipedia disambiguation to actually find out his stats. I had no clue he had 100 yards last week.
No politics here, by the way.
And by the way, it actually is the senator. You're
is there actually a senator named Marcus Johnson?
No, I don't think so. But
okay.
Denny, sit one in PPRs. This one is easy as saying bench Alex Collins, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, I think it is. I will say there is some sneaky appeal with Alex Collins with Kyler Murray being out. The Seahawks at home likely to, play the way they want to, which is just ugly and on the ground. And the Cardinals, like we've mentioned on the show several times this year, are a run funnel defense. And I think Pete Carroll will have a tough time looking away from a run funnel defense and leaning on the pass. So I'm not saying Collins is not playable, but out of these options, I guess I'd bench him.
Would you play Alex Collins or Mike Williams at the flex spot? Jennifer Moore needs to know on YouTube.
That's tough. I'd go Collins.
Is there any hope that Mike Williams finally gets it cooking today? I mean, it's another kind of tough matchup in the Steelers. I was clinging to like weird comments that they might try to get Mike Williams going. Basically, I interpreted as squeaky wheel, them insisting Mike Williams wasn't hurt. Really digging deep. It's week 11, okay? But does anyone think Mike Williams actually starts to turn it around today or no?
It could happen today. It could happen in 3 weeks.
I'd play Mike Williams over Alex Collins, if that's the question. I don't even know if I'd answer, I believe Mike Williams turns it around. I would just play Mike Williams over Alex Collins.
think I probably would too. I definitely understand the counter argument for going to running back touches, though, which is why I didn't interject and scold Denny. But I think I would play Mike Williams over
I
Alex
guess.
Jones.
I mean, I know this is a lazy fallback, but I'm going to use it anyway. It depends on if you're going for a floor or ceiling. If I guess Thursday night was such a dud of a fantasy game that you probably are not far behind from anything there. So
you face the Patriots.
I have leagues where I face the Pats D, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe Byron Pringle scores 4 times today.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So if you play the Patriots defense, Mike Williams is your guy today.
Poor Jennifer Moore also said in the chat she's embarrassed for asking this question. Don't be embarrassed. This is the trust tree, Jennifer.
Yeah, this is truly
every question is safe here.
She also said she plays in a league that's been around since '91. That's like way older than I am. It wasn't even close, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, this is truly a safe space. We do genuinely mean that. There's no question sick enough to ask us. And Kyle, I feel like I throw all these questions to Denny, but I'm gonna have someone else talk about tight ends. Cole Kmet, one of the most discussed tight ends of the week because getting a lot of targets. The Ravens give up a lot of tight end targets, or TJ Hockenson in the Tim Boyle death zone.
I'm gonna go with Cole Kmet here. I think I like flipped them in my rankings as you're asking me this question because it really put it down to brass tacks, and I'll take Cole Kmet, especially without Allen Robinson. I do think the targets essentially go to like 2 players and the running backs. And I would have said a few weeks ago, that's actually the exact same thing I would have said in Detroit. The targets go to a few players, mainly a tight end and a running back. We can't even say that about TJ Hockenson anymore. You said one of the most discussed tight ends in Cole Kmet, one of the most disgusting tight ends in TJ Hockenson. So I'll just go with Cole Kmet.
There you go. Listen, I was about to throw a temper tantrum on air if you had gone with Hockenson.
I also did it to help Denny. That's true. I thought it would be good, for his livelihood, assuming he would get fired if he threw a temper tantrum.
Well, I don't even want to know how much money Denny has taken from the Cole Kmet lobby, but it has to be a lot.
The Cole lobby.
Yeah, sorry. Daigle, I feel like we've talked a little bit about Michael Gallup, but give us a Michael Gallup spiel, and can you start Michael Gallup over Michael Pittman?
I would imagine he just takes Amari Cooper's spot. And remember, Amari Cooper was essentially playing over CeeDee Lamb since CeeDee Lamb was coming off the fields at time if he wasn't playing from the slot. And without Blake Jarwin, it essentially seals those 3 guys, Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup now. I think Gallup's floor is tremendously high. Also, though, throughout his career, Gallup has not been like a target hog. That's why we don't worry about Bateman so much. He's already proven he has a 20% target share in his bag weekly. Now it's just a matter of what else he can do. Gallup is more about big plays and depending on touchdowns. And so like his floor actually isn't as high, but his ceiling is incredible. But also for the Colts, it's just such a tougher matchup. I think I actually would play Gallup over Michael Pittman, thinking he is genuinely the safer play.
He is probably this. I have Pittman higher in my rankings, but it's tough. Gallup probably is the safer play just in that scoring environment in Dallas and Kansas City.
Every time Pittman has seen any kind of volume this year, or if you stretch even back into last year, he's done well. And I think that this game shapes up for him to, finally approach double-digit targets, maybe go over after some low-volume games.
Are we doing adjust the ranks today, by the way, Denny? Do we know that? Are we doing that in the show? I'm throwing that question out to producer Steven. And while we wait for that, Denny, we're going to throw you kind of a crazy one from Matthew on YouTube. He needs one. PPR flex, Jalen Waddle, Michael Carter, DJ Moore, or Myles Gaskin.
Pick one?
Pick one.
Grief.
This guy's winning a champion. Matthew, you're winning a championship.
Yeah.
If you're mentioning these 3 guys, but
forget it. Well, Michael Carter's not, I don't think, in the discussion with Joe Flacco, who's wearing number 19 today, by the way. Just a hideous number.
That's the grossest thing I've ever heard in NFL history. And those Jets uniforms, no offense to the Jets, but you need another rebrand with the uniforms. All right?
Yeah. They're gonna need a 40th version of those Jets uniforms. Okay. All right. Back to business. I'm going Gaskin against a wretched New York run defense, and hopefully Gaskin can be a little more efficient today after 2 of the least efficient outings you'll ever see from a running back.
Salvin Ahmed healthy scratch for the Dolphins too, so hopefully that enhances Gaskin's outlook. Now, Denny, it's time. Hopefully, you adjusted the ranks for Joe Flacco wearing number 19.
I wish I had.
Most stunning thing I've ever heard in my life. But Denny, now to tell us what merited a rankings adjustment this week.
Hey everyone, this is Denny Carter with NBC Sports Edge with the latest edition of Adjust the Ranks. Today, we're going to start with Green Bay Packers running back A.J. Dillon, who this week on Twitter announced that he bought shares of Green Bay Packers Inc. and described himself in the Twitter post as, quote, self-employed. What does this mean? I'm not sure, but it raises some serious questions about A.J. Dillon going forward. Is A.J. Dillon going to start hiring low-paid running backs to come in and work in his backfield while Aaron Jones is unfortunately sidelined with a knee injury? This is a question no one is asking. Is A.J. Dillon going to take time out of practice this week to go lobby Congress for small business tax cuts? Is A.J. Dillon going to take time out of practice this week to go to Washington to have a sit-down with Senator Joe Manchin instead of watching defensive game tape for the Vikings, the Packers' Week 11 opponent? These are all questions that we need to ask, and honestly, I'm adjusting way down on A.J. Dillon for this week and going forward. Adjust the ranks. We continue today with Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey, who of course takes on Washington in Week 11. Washington's defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, has a son named Luke, who played high school football with Christian McCaffrey. In fact, at Valor Christian High School in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, Luke Del Rio and Christian McCaffrey won a championship together. Why does this matter? I'll tell you why it matters. High school chatter, locker room chatter is in play today. Washington has a clear competitive edge on the Panthers because they know everything there is to know about Christian McCaffrey via Luke Del Rio. This is what you won't hear in the mainstream media. In fact, we can't even bank on the Panthers starting Christian McCaffrey this week against the football team. The competitive edge is so severe. If you have Chuba Hubbard, you might as well just plug him in. Forget about the rest. CMC cannot be played this week against the defensive coordinator who knows everything there is to know about him. Adjust the ranks. Once again, this is Denny Carter with NBC Sports Edge, reminding you to adjust the ranks.
Denny, I'm speechless.
You know, did A.J. Dillon meet with Senator Joe Manchin? We still don't know. We're asking questions. We haven't gotten them answered.
There's been stakeouts trying to confirm, and we can't. He's been well hidden by his people. Denny, what we hope is not well hidden is the kicker plays of the week. Do they exist this week? Do you have kicker plays of the week? Who are they?
Yes, I do. I have them every week. Randy Bullock is the top waiver wire ad as far as kickers go, because the Titans are heavy favorites against Houston and should give him plenty of field goal opportunity today. Don't worry about the weather so much. It's supposed to be rainy, but not windy. There's not supposed to be much wind at all in Tennessee today. You're going with Bullock. Evan McPherson for Cincinnati is another streamer. Robbie Gould is a solid play against the Jags, who have given up the second most field goal attempts per game this season. And then finally, Jason Sanders. You can finally use you drafted Jason Sanders in like the 9th round. You can finally use him today against the Jets.
I'm not kidding. This is like the 5th time Denny's talked about Randy Bullock this week. Like I've heard him on every show mention Randy Bullock.
But is there any chance the Texans win today, Daigle?
No.
Titans are about as banged up as possible.
I wouldn't say no. I think they cover. I'm very confident that they cover, but when, I don't know.
I'm very confident.
Titans front 7 is beat up too. Like it's not only their secondary; they were getting by with a pass rush, and now I would argue like they don't even have a pass rush in this game. So I'm worried about that game.
I truly don't understand how this team is 8-2, and Kyle, I truly don't understand how you're going to answer Acegaming 2005's question: Tony Pollard or Zach Moss? 3-man ordeal now in that Bills backfield.
Yeah, because of that, I can't really trust Zach Moss. Never could, never will. Can't do it again. Tony Pollard, not going to lead his team in carries, which I guess is still kind of on the table for Zach Moss, but a backup role in the Cowboys offense in a game that should probably, at least in the median, it projects to feature the most plays of any game of the week. yeah, you'll take a backup role in that, whereas Moss could be maybe a starter, maybe a backup, maybe even the third running back. So there's really just a wider range of outcomes that skews more towards the bottom, where because Pollard plays in such a good game, his also just skews towards that same sort of touchdown ceiling that Moss has, but he probably has a much more solidified role. So Pollard, and it's not like that close.
Daigle, Muhammad on YouTube wants to know Miles Sanders, we've talked about a little bit, or Josh Jacobs, who we haven't talked about much. And frankly, I had no idea where to rank him this week. Like every time I saw him in the ranks, I'm like, this seems too high. This seems too low. Who in the world are we playing here between Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders?
Sadly take Josh Jacobs. Be happy you got Miles Sanders back, but let's see how this committee shakes out now, since Kenneth Gainwell's the odd man out, which is actually somewhat concerning because Boston Scott and Jordan Howard don't offer the same skill set that Gainwell did, even though he wasn't playing. And so, like, you would just imagine they just cannibalize one another now because they're all early down running backs. And I expect Howard more than Scott, but Howard in particular, to stick around behind Sanders. Plus, just it's literally the second toughest matchup you could face on the ground outside of playing the Bills. And so just wait. I'd rather have Sanders on the bench. Let's see what happens in this game.
This is a really interesting one, Denny, from James Patrick on YouTube. Brandon Cooks or T. Higgins. T. Higgins feels like kind of like a nice floor play. We haven't seen a ceiling game in forever. And Brandon Cooks getting nothing but targets from Tyrod Taylor. Right. Who are you leaning here?
Yeah, I'm leaning Cooks. It doesn't get better for wide receiver than when he faces the Titans. Titans have given up the most fantasy production to opposing wideouts. Boundary receivers have had a lot of success against Tennessee for most of this season. It's a little different over the past couple weeks, but I trust that Brandon Cooks' massive volume, just target domination, the likes of which we don't see outside of Devontae Adams dominating targets in Green Bay's offense. I think that'll get him there more easily than T. Higgins against the Raiders.
Yeah, I feel good about Cooks today. I may be playing him in the staff contest. Kyle Dvorchak. We haven't had many quarterback questions today. Ryan Tannehill, I feel like is defaulting into QB1 status. He's had four rushing touchdowns the past 5 games. Or Jalen Hurts, who hopefully re-solidified his bona fides last week. Is it still Hurts?
Yeah, it still hurts. I mean, we talk about the Ryan Tannehill rushing touchdowns, but I mean, those are nice. You do project him to have more rushing touchdowns, but not in the way that you project Jalen Hurts to actually play like a bona fide running back. And he's been improved as a passer, albeit they do have the league's lowest pass rate over the past 4 weeks. I expect them to continue try to be a run-first team, but to the extent where they're running far more run plays than they are pass plays, that seems a bit generous to me. I still think they're probably closer to league average based on how they played early in the year, although they're never probably returning to that fun style of, Superman, Jalen Hurts type of play. Doesn't matter as long as they're even close. And maybe even if they're not, because Hurts just makes up so much ground on the ground, you're taking Hurts.
Daigle, we don't have any Chris Godwin concern, right? I mean, he seemed to escape without setbacks last week. We feel good about him on Monday Night Football, correct?
Yep, he'll be fine.
There we go. All right. We're getting near the end here. This is an interesting one, Denny. Devontae Smith, I think Devontae Smith, he's just one of those guys this year where the overall numbers say he's a wide receiver too. The weekly experience say he's someone you never, ever want to play in fantasy football. We are going with Devontae Smith with 3 touchdowns in his past 2 games, or Myles Gaskin, and we hope it's a beautiful setup against the Jets.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time, getting away from Gaskin in these questions, is because, like you said, the setup, the matchup is so good. Juicy, some might say. Don't
get political.
Trying desperately not to use that word, and I just did. So yeah, I mean, I guess I feel a little better about Gaskin against this Jets team. It's just hard. It's hard to look at a matchup like that and say, nah, I'll keep him on the bench.
We are almost out of time, but this latter name here, Chase Claypool, I think is a huge wild card for Week 11. Kind of snuck back into active status. No one is really talking about him. Kyle, are we playing Nyheim Hines or Chase Claypool in PPR?
Ugh. I guess you're playing Chase Claypool.
I think you are.
I think you are, especially with what Daigle said about Jonathan Taylor seeing season high in snap rate last week. Again, that's kind of something I don't necessarily know you expect. It was, even though the box score ended up being a little bit closer, it was a pretty favorable game script for Taylor. Not going to be that this week. I still think it's Claypool. But maybe that's just because Claypool's big, fast, and strong, and I think that's cool. And maybe that's not actually what the math would say. Daigle, can I throw this to you?
It's still Claypool. Nyheim Hines more of a large field tournament option in DFS, especially if you're playing Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, like large field. Millie, it makes zero sense to play Taylor. Play Hines, and that's the game script. That the Bills get up 2 or 3 scores and Hines comes in. That's your cheap running back option.
And that is our cheap option to end the show. Sometimes some transitions flow easier than others.
You went for it.
I definitely went for it. It's week 11. That was a week 11 effort at going for it.
We can edit it out. It's fine.
Yeah, we can edit it out of this live show. It is week 11, right? I just panicked. Like, is it week 11? Yeah. I don't actually know.
Of the 2024 season.
Yes,
Welcome.
Yes. So, thank you so much for joining us today on a good football show, Fantasy Kickoff, served by Applebee's. It's really great stuff every week. The questions are genuinely hard. They make us think, sometimes make us regret our own rankings, but we will be back next Sunday at noon Eastern with myself, John Daigle, Kyle Dvorchak, and Denny Carter. I'm Patrick Daugherty. Good luck today. Thanks for joining us as always.